I was sick when this happened, but I've seen the mainstream media, game journalist sites, talking about this and defending the company, the director for this, for having racially discriminatory hiring practices. And they're saying people complaining about this person and the game and all this are bigoted. They said it's bigotry. Yes, not the racist. It's you for complaining about the racism. That's right. So I'm going to talk about it now, even though it's a little bit older now, about a week old now, whatever. Let me just read the tweet that started this, where people looked into this and found out about the director. And this is the art director at Obsidian Entertainment. He says, reminder to black artists out there who are looking for portfolio reviews or job advice. My DMs are open, and you will always have my priority. We got too many crusty old white dudes in the field. Please let me help you replace me one day. I want to go back to living in the woods. Yes, he's racist, but it's quirky. It's quirky because he's saying that after he finishes, right? After he's retired from all, okay, when he's made his money and he's done, then he might let you have his job. One of you might be allowed to have his job. He's not going to quit now and let somebody else take his place. Of course not. And it's weird because it's not just racist against white people, other than obviously he gives himself a special privilege of being in a high position, art director. But it's also racist to anybody else who just isn't considered black, because he's giving special priority to whoever he would consider black. So if you're Asian or Hispanic, shockingly, bizarrely enough, Native American, I think they're still based in America, right? American studio. No, he's saying if you're black, you get special priority. For some reason, he's obsessed with that specific collection of ethnic groups, right? That race. Not white people. He hates white people specifically. He likes black people, and he puts them at a higher priority than Asian or Hispanic people or anybody else, really. It's very weird. And of course, he specifies men. So, I don't know. Maybe if you're a white woman and it was between you or a white man, maybe you'd have slightly higher priority, but he doesn't really want you either, to be honest. It's very weird. And yes, if you're wondering, that is illegal in America. It's supposed to be. We still do it anyway. We call it positive discrimination, and apparently it's okay. But yeah, we have civil rights laws, okay? There was a whole thing about civil rights, and so it's illegal to discriminate based on race when hiring people, and also on other things, like gender. You can't hire somebody just because they're male, or, refuse to hire people because they're male or female or whatever. But yes, he's doing that. He's specifically saying out publicly that he wants to hire people and give them a special advantage and put them in if they're black, and no one else. They don't get the special advantage, and that he specifically gets too many white people, which is, he's saying older white men. So it's people who've been working in the industry, would have experience, which based on a meritocracy, you'd probably want people who have experience and have a proven record of actually doing a good job for your big game, for some big game you're making. But no, he specifically doesn't want that. For some reason, if he thinks that that's such a terrible thing to have working on the game, he's not firing himself. He's not quitting, is he? No, he's not. He's not stepping down for a younger person to take over for his job. But somebody else shouldn't be allowed to get hired. Yes, it's just a weird racism, Whether he considers himself white or not, and it's like self-loathing, who cares? But of course, it doesn't actually apply to him, so obviously it doesn't matter because he's not quit. And then you have an article from Kotaku saying that people criticizing the game and the people who make the game and all this are bigoted. It's bigotry. The bigotry attacking this video game, this studio, who hasn't done anything wrong other than illegal, racially discriminatory hiring practices. Other than that, I don't see why you wouldn't like them. Yes, it's a weird, very extremely, left-wing kind of racism. We know that's what it is. Popular in California and places in Canada and Western Europe, all over. We know what it is. That's why he talks about how he doesn't like white people. That's why he's specifically trying to get, I guess, only black people into the company. Not even other races other than white people, just because that's the obsession with people in California and everything. Which usually is because they have the lowest opinion and think that they need like a, equity to be pushed up higher. Whereas they're never going to say that they think an Asian man needs to get help getting into the industry. So it's it's racist to give people advantages because of their race, and it's also the reason they want to give the advantages, usually because they think quite less of that specific group. So it's racist on both ends, really. It's very strange. So anyway, it's just really interesting that you can have, that's not just some random person in a low position saying that. And again, he hasn't been fired, right? The company hasn't come out and spoken against this. And the company is owned by Microsoft. It's not a little indie company. It's not a studio with a couple of people. It's a big company, okay? They're owned by Microsoft. It's a massive corporation. And yes, Microsoft has racial, I don't even know what you'd call it, just like castes or groups, like groups within the company. Like they literally have something called Blacks at Microsoft. Or is it Blacks at Xbox? I can't remember, but I remember seeing all this. And Bungie has a thing where they have like Latinx at Bungie and everything, all these different companies do this. Yes, all these things, it seemed like it'd be discriminatory and bizarre, racist to have groups based on race or gender, sexuality, of course, but it's not apparently. Not really. Nobody really seems to like it, not normal people, but there's always going to be people willing to be hired for it, right? Willing to go along with it. Anyway, what was I talking about? Right. So they hate white people. But if you're white and you don't want to play the game, you don't want to give them $70 to play their game and go along with whatever potential propaganda they put in it. And don't tell me that people who are openly racist about this and have racially based hiring practices wouldn't put anything weird in a game they've written or had any involvement with. Okay, this whole team apparently is okay. They're outwardly racist. From the top down, they're the ones who decide who gets hired. So I don't want to hear it that it's just completely random. That couldn't have anything to do with the quality of the... No, not only would I not want to support somebody like that, any people like this, but I don't want to play the game either. Okay? If somehow it was amazing, I still really don't want to give them money. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't want to do that. That's how capitalism has to work. If you don't want mindless consumerism, you have to sometimes say no to buying products. But somehow the progressive industry, right, all these companies and these outlets that claim to be journalists, of course, journalists and everything, they say you're the bad guy if you don't want to buy it or you criticize the company. And they're, of course, very good because it's the right kind of racial discrimination, of hatred, right? It's the right kind of racism. So it's actually very progressive. They're moving forward. Because, I mean, if I guess it's illegal right now with civil laws. So they're moving forward. They're going beyond the laws of the country, civil laws. And they're bringing racism back. But it's a good thing because they hate white people. It's white people who say they hate white people, while giving themselves the highest positions, keeping those, of course. If you hate people of any specific race, of a certain race, and you tell them and you say it publicly, then they don't have to give you money. They never had to give you money. Customers don't have to buy everything that companies, all these people make just because they made it. It's not how it works. But they especially don't have to. They might consider not doing it when they might have otherwise done it. When you tell them you hate them because of their race or that you're literally going to discriminate against them based on their race, why would they support you? Why would anybody who's not a big fan of racism do that, really? And I don't see anybody Asian or Hispanic either. Why? Like, you literally want to give benefits to people who are of a different race than them when hiring at your company. And we're supposed to believe that your company is going to make the best possible product when you specifically avoid people who you say are a bit too old and have too many skills and you just want to hire based on race? Like, what is this, dude? Obviously not. That's not how you make the best product. With racism. Avoiding people who come and have the skills you want, but you don't like it because they have the wrong race. There's too many white people already. You don't want them. That's how progressive things have gotten. And you get called racist if you don't like this, if you don't like these companies, these huge companies doing this. The companies are owned by Microsoft. Okay. That's what Obsidian is now. It's not the same company that made Fallout New Vegas a long time ago. Okay. It's owned by Microsoft, and I'm sure a lot of those people aren't there anymore. They had the companies buy up all these, but yeah, the big companies buy up these smaller companies, and eventually there's hardly anybody left at those companies who actually made the games anymore, and it's just garbage, just like Dragon Age Veilguard. But yes, people also complain that they saw something about, like, pronouns in the game, and if you don't know, people always do this. They pretend, they're very disingenuous with it. They pretend that, oh, well, everything uses, there's pronouns, what are you talking about? That's normal. People are talking about using pronouns that are different from your gender, from the sex of the character. If you pick a male character, even if they don't say it's male, and they try to hide the gender because of literally censorship, even, you know, Asian video games are being censored because of Western standards being imposed on them. And they say body type A, body type B, you know, or a number or whatever. You're still clearly picking a male or a female character. And then if you pick pronouns after that, when you've already picked a male or a female character, that's what they're talking about. Normally, you would just pick male or female, and we don't need to pretend that they're not male or female. You would just pick a male or a female. And when they see these things, they expect a certain kind of politics from the people making it, if it's not just being censored by the West on some Asian company, right? And that's what this is. It's a Western studio. The thing about, I guess, some non-binary character or just having different pronouns for things, and they guessed that it would have very far left, you know, progressive politics. And they were correct, because the art director is going on about how he doesn't like white people, he doesn't want to hire white people, and he specifically wants to hire black people and give them a special advantage and look at their portfolio and get them in and hire them at the company instead of somebody who's white, Asian, Hispanic, or anything else because he's racist. You were right if you guessed that they were really progressive because of this, that they were left-wing and they probably hated you. You were right. You were correct. Then you were correct, okay? Anybody who guessed that, they were right. It's obvious. If you look at Dragon Age Veilguard, you know what kind of politics they have. If you expected the dialogue to be really bad and sanitized and everything was going to be really safe and extremely progressive and they were going to go on about characters like gender and being non-binary and everything, and then you were right. You were 100% right just looking at it. We all notice the trend. Like, it's not complicated. But yes, it's pretty easy to just not play a video game, especially when the people who make it hate you. You know, I don't want to give them $60 or $70 for that. I don't want to give them any amount of money. Even if it was free, I wouldn't want to play it. And all these companies lying and saying that anybody who criticizes these other companies, that they're bigoted, it's bigotry, it's racism, it's whatever else. No. Everybody knows they're the bad guys. Even Kotaku's article they posted on Twitter, other people just criticizing them, you know, say that, get way more support than their own article on their profile. They're posting it. Who here likes it? It's all fake. It's just people, paid shills, and people who want to be in the industry, right? They want to get paid. They want to work at some journalist site, or they want to work at like some studio or whatever. And you see that with the sales like Concord and all these different games that don't succeed. They go badly. Which they should, but it's just constantly being pushed by wealthy people, right? By these big corporations and the people who get hired by the big corporations and the people who then get hired by those people higher up in the corporations. The studios are done. Most of the people probably hate you. If they had completely different politics, they wouldn't get hired by these people. Or they probably wouldn't want to keep working at these companies, right? Even if they did somehow get hired. It's just garbage. That's what's happening with these industries now. AAA gaming, all of this. I mean, you still sometimes see it with indies too, but at least there's a chance they're going to be normal, or at least not tell you how much they hate people based on their race or their gender or sexuality or whatever crazy, insane politics they believe. They might at least keep it to themselves a bit. You know, professionalism, where you walk in the door to a shop and they don't call you a slur and tell you they hate you and they don't want your money, but also they get angry when you don't give them your money and you just leave. You know, professionalism. There's just not a lot of it. And there sure as hell isn't a lot of good people apparently running these companies. You know, good companies, they don't exist anymore because they all just get bought out.